What can I say about Linda? Linda says that she admires me, but I've admired her from afar for years, and the work that she does in this vein called women and women entrepreneurs, and us trying to get together to help each other. I was on a conversation in a conversation the other day, and someone had asked me, "What do I think is the reason why a lot of people aren't successful?" And I said, "It's because we just don't help each other." If I genuinely had a heart to help you get what you want, then I know that I will receive what I want. And I believe that's the reason why I have been so successful in life so far, is because I don't have a problem with helping someone else get what they want or helping them even shine. Their shine doesn't dull mine. It makes mine brighter because I'm smiling because they achieved what they wanted to achieve. And so I'm just going to talk about, man, activating your impact is what we named this webinar. And I just want to go down to just grassroots, because I believe that I started, for those of you who don't know, I am the founder of Minnie's Food Pantry. And Minnie's Food Pantry was started 17 years ago out of a place of pain. A lot of leaders will ask me, how do I find my passion, Cheryl? How do I live the life that I know I wanted? How do I live a life with purpose? Because I hate going to the office, but then that's all I do is work and I don't have any purpose. And I always tell people, when you go back to the worst place of pain in your life, you're going to find a purpose there. And it doesn't mean that you have to start something. You can join someone in doing whatever that purpose is. You don't have to do what I did. But for me, my background is my parents were pastors. My mother had 7 children, and she made all of us feel like we were her favorite one. And I just loved family. They were pastors and they would always say, give your best. I grew up on a street called Prosperity Street, where everyone was broke on Prosperity Street. But my mother said we had a lot of love. And I know that to be true. And life for me was great. I graduated at the age of 17 and got married the very next month. I could have went to any college, made straight A's. My parents were just livid. How could you get married? You can go to college. But I love that man. His name is Artist Jackson. And 39 years later, we are still happily married with now 2 kids and 8 grandkids. And life is good. But back then, life was very challenging for me. My husband and I collectively, we worked 5 jobs, throwing the newspapers. He worked for the city. I worked at grocery stores, whatever it took to make ends meet. And it just didn't work. And my husband looked at me and said, "You can't tell your father, because he told me to bring you back home if I couldn't take care of you." And so I was like, well, what do I do? So I made the decision to go and apply for food stamps. And it was the most terrific experience I'd ever encountered. Everyone was crying, and it was humiliating, to say the least. Uh, but I made it through it, and they gave me this brown paper bag. They said, "Well, Cheryl, you make $8 too much, so you can't even get approved." But they gave me a brown paper bag, and everything in that bag had expired except for beets. And I still have not cooked beets to this day. I was so excited, ladies, that at least my kids would get a real meal, but that wasn't the case. But life got better for me. I started working for a communications company. I later met Emmett Smith, and I wrote a business plan for Emmett Smith. Most of us know him from Dancing with the Stars, and sports fans know him from the Dallas Cowboys, NFL all-time leading Hall of Fame rusher. And I wrote a business plan for him. And I would watch him use his signature to sign an autograph, and he would feel huge, 50-foot trucks with food, canned goods, or toys. And I was like, wow, this man is really using his life to make a difference, and I would see my parents do just the most with the little that they had. And it just gave me something to reflect upon. And that's why when we're talking about, your impact and activating your impacts, I really want to make sure that my message is clear today. You don't have to have a lot to do a lot. Whatever little you have is a lot to somebody else. This past week, I have this habit, and I always challenge my friends. And once a month, I will tip the amount of my bill. And so I was at a pizza place, and I tipped the woman $43. And she cleared my bill back, and she said, "Now do it." And I tipped her again, $43. That was how much my pizza was. She cleared my bill again. She goes, ma'am, your bill is $43. And I could tell she had had a hard day. I said, I understand that. She goes, so you're giving me $43 for a tip? I said, yes, ma'am, that's what I'm doing. And she turned around to the two co-workers behind her and she said, she's giving us $43. And they all started crying. $43 made three grown people cry in a pizza place. So if you don't think that your impact, $43 could make a difference, and sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 10. I tipped the lady $60 last Sunday. We were at Outback. And she came back and she said, ma'am, you gave me too much. You gave me too much. I love the honesty though in the people. And I said, well, what did I give you? She said, your bill was 60. I said, I know. She said, this is for me. And I said, yes, ma'am, it's for you. And she said, you're going to help me pay my car note. I was so worried. And she stood in front of my car. I was in the to-go. She stood in front of my car and cried. And she said, may God bless you for what you just did for me. I didn't know how I was going to pay my car note. It's those little things that we do that if you don't think you can make a difference, that's why it's activating your impact. If I could just activate everyone that's on this call right now to say, I want to do something small and for you to realize how big it is, that's the difference. And so for me, as I was saying, life got better for me. I started a business plan working for Emmett Smith. And then I did the 16, I won the 16 city tour, didn't go to college, don't know anything about acting, but they were trying to audition people in 16 cities to host and interview people at the Oscars. And I said, pick me, pick me. I had the sheet of paper and I was filling out on every piece of paper. I said, I'm your girl. Here's my phone number. Call me, pick me. And they chose me. So here I am interviewing people at the Oscars, Reese Witherspoon, everybody with no experience on top of that to boot, right? And I'm looking at the red carpet and everybody's going crazy over these people. And I'm like, oh, wow. And so I remembered all of that. I remembered all that. And life for me got better. I started working for Ford, flying around the country, rolling out their policies, processes, and procedures. I was the only African American that they chose. They only chose 13 people. And I was one of the African Americans. And I'm telling you this, and I'm painting a transparent picture because a lot of people feel like, oh, that I can't do that because I didn't do this or whatever. In our mindset, we have these barriers. And sometimes people give us these barriers. That's why we can't do it. And so everything that I started doing, I'm like, wow, I don't have any college degree, but here I am interviewing all these people. And I don't have any celebrityism, but I'm around all these celebrities. Life was great for me, y'all. I'm interviewing people. Entertainment Tonight's calling me and saying, hey, we want you to freelance. I'm getting a check for one day from Entertainment Tonight for like $4,000 for a 30-minute little interview spot. And I'm like, oh man, I'm a part of SAG. I mean, I'm living this life. I'm like, wow, my kids are happy. We're happy. And my father, he got really sick and we didn't know he got sick. We thought it was a cold. It was in December. And he died 6 months later, Father's Day weekend. And it sent me into the most horrific depression that I thought that I would ever incur. I lived across the street from my parents. So my mother would walk over, and one day she walked over and she said, Cheryl, you got to get up. You got to get up. And I don't know who I'm talking to today, and I don't know what you're going through, but I'm just going to tell you, you got to get up. You can make it. It doesn't matter what you're going on in life, what life is thrown at you. You got to get up because you can make it. And my mother said, you got to move. Your kids need you. I need you. And I looked up at my mom. Her name was Minnie, and tears are flowing down my face and she's wiping them. And I said, Mom, I said, you and Dad were the most incredible parents. I just want the world to know your name. And I'm thinking to myself, God, how do I do that? How do I do that? God spoke to me that little whisper, and he said, feed my people. And he said, give them what you wanted to receive when you went to get a meal, and treat them how you wanted to be treated when you needed that meal. And that stuck with me. And I said to my mom, I said, Mom, I said, I'm going to start a food pantry. I said, I'm going to call it Minnie's Food Pantry. My mother didn't care. She's like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to name anything after me. I just want you to get up. And I said, I am going to get up, but this is what I have to do. And so, ladies, I started Minnie's Food Pantry literally with 2 cans of corn. And I had my first and last month's rent. That's all I had. And I say this and I tell it and I try to be so transparent because we can have as many excuses as we want, or we can just say we want to do it. And we began to do it. I was in a little small 500 square foot building. I had a table in front of the door. So if anybody, because it wasn't in the safest place, I was like, the table was my security. I'm like, if somebody comes at me, they're going to have to cross across the table first. Like that would stop them, right? And I would watch this girl because I intentionally, if we started doing everything intentionally, you will be shocked. So this girl would walk by my office windows and she would always have one sack with her. And again, I said my parents were ministers. So I remember that scripture, the give us this day our daily bread. And I was saying to myself, this girl is walking by every single day and she's just getting a meal for her family. And I was like, Lord, how do I feed her? And what I did was not what he told me to do. What I did was started, a lot of people don't know this, but I started a place called the Giving Boutique because I'm like, well, what I'll do is I'll clean out everything in my house and then I'll raise money from that. Then I'll start feeding the hungry. And every month I only made enough just to pay the rent. One day I was on my way to Miami and God said, I told you to feed my people. I was like, yeah, God, I don't have the money. I mean, I'm trying. And he said, you have a place. Tell your realtor, call her and tell her to give you a place. She has a place for you for free. Now, most of us probably wouldn't do this, but I'm a woman of faith. And so I was in Miami and I called my realtor and I said, I am supposed to really be feeding the hungry, but I started this boutique and I need a place and you have it and it's free. So please call me back and tell me where this place is, right? Who does that, right? She didn't answer my call. I called her again, left her another message. She didn't respond. Then I came back home and God said, call her again. And I called her and she said, I'll be over to your place in a minute. And I said, okay. She came over to my place. And I'm sharing this part of my story because a lot of you are working on things and you're about to give up. A lot of you don't believe that you can make it. And you're like, when's my change going to come? When's my help going to come? Where is what I'm supposed to be doing? Where is it at? Brenda walks into my office and she says, so I have a place for free, right? And I said, yes. And she said, okay. Okay. And how long am I supposed to give this to you for free? I said, well, how long is my lease here? She said, it's 3 years. I said, then you're supposed to give it to me for 3 years. And she said, okay, well, I got a place for you. And literally, ladies, she walks 2 doors down and she opens the door. And she opens the door to this little, I mean, the dirtiest, nastiest place that you could find. And my eyes just lit up. And I was like, this is my place for free. She said, yes, but you're going to have to do the build out. I don't have any money for the build out. So you got to build it out. And I remember building it, trying to build it out, going around my community, trying to figure this out. How do I do this? How do I do this? And people in my community saying no, because people didn't know me back at that time. I'm starting Minnie's Food Pantry. People are laughing at me because they're saying nobody's hungry. There's someone you know that could be hungry right now. When you ask your friends and even your colleagues, how are you doing? A lot of the people that I feed are not the homeless. Probably 8 to 10% are homeless. So rest of the people are working class, middle class Americans. They are struggling from paycheck to paycheck or living on their means. So she says to me, okay, this place is for free if you build it out. I go around the community, everybody says no. Here's an important part that I want to share with you. When you say you want to activate your impact, you got to know what your impact is and what it should be, which is why I love Linda. Because when I talk to Linda and I'm telling her, trying to be strategic, you have to have the plan. For I know the plans I have for you. You have to have a written plan for your life, something so that you can fall back on if someone says, show me what you're talking about. And so I literally sat down one night and wrote down everything that I needed, what people were saying no to. A young man came to me and he said, Cheryl, he said, he wanted to meet someone. I said, okay. And then the next day he said, Cheryl, and every person, I would show them this building because it's just 2 doors down from where I'm at. I said, you want to see my dream? My dream is right here, right here. And they'd open up and people's face would be like, oh, this is what you're going to call a food pantry. I was like, yeah, but I'm going to build it out. It's going to be okay. Right. And they're like, oh, It's okay. I was okay with that, right? People are not going to understand your dream and your vision because they didn't get it. It didn't come to them. It came to you. It came into your heart, into your soul. And so that thing that keeps you up at night that you don't feel like you can do, is it writing a book? Is it speaking in public? Is it starting your own business? Is it starting a nonprofit? Whatever it is yours. And if it's yours to manifest. The world is waiting for you to manifest. And so I sat there and I told him, I said, this is my dream. And he said, will you help me achieve mine? And he said, there is a conference that's coming in and these huge leaders are coming and they have to do a long lasting project. And so we have to submit projects to them. I would love to submit yours. Do you have it? I need it in 15 minutes. If someone were to ask you, what is your dream? What do you want to do? And let me see it on paper. Put in the chat if you could put it and send it to them within 15 minutes. I want to see that. I'm going to pause for a minute. Who here has a dream? Yes, I love it, Kathy. Congratulations. Who has a dream on paper? That's it, Linda. Now, Linda helps everybody too. Sarah, come on. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I like to see. Yes, Carrie, Sharon, I love it. I love it. That's what, and those of you who haven't responded, that's why I'm talking about it, because this is a time for you to begin to write down your dream so you can see it. Because if you can see it and you believe it, you can achieve it. If you can see it and you believe it, you can achieve it. And so it was crazy because I sent it to him and within 30 minutes, he said, Cheryl, they chose you. They chose me? He said, yeah, they chose you for your dream. They're going to help you fulfill your dream. And these strangers, they were not in my community. They came from all around the world and they had, ironically, 7 days. I'm such a biblical numbers person. They had 7 days to create Minnie's Food Pantry. And they did it in 7 days. And they went to some of the same people that I had asked to help me, who told me no, but they told them yes. Imagine that. I didn't care though. I was like, as long as you got a yes, I don't care where the yes came from. And they built Minnie's Food Pantry, this little 500 square foot building. And we were off to the races. And life wasn't easy. It hasn't been easy. We started feeding 10 people. And one of the first families I served with that little girl that I told you about that would walk by every single day. And can I tell you that I never saw her again after I fed her that first time? Never walked by again. It was amazing to me. I said, well, wow, maybe she was just God's way of saying, let me remind you of what you're supposed to do. And I think that's why you're here today, is God's way of me telling you, let me remind you that there's a gift that he's given to you that he wants you to activate, right? And time is not on our side. So as we begin serving Minnie's Food Pantry, 10 families a month, up to 100 families a month. I mean, I'm just having such a good time. I'm like, I'm struggling because sometimes people will give me food and it was expired. In my dream, I didn't give it away expired food. In my dream, I treated people with dignity, integrity, and respect. So if I had volunteers that came in and they weren't treating, I fired one volunteer. And we don't even pay volunteers. How do you fire somebody you don't pay? You do it. I told them, I said, you don't understand because you haven't been sitting in that seat. And so I'm going to let you go home for a month until you understand why we do what we do and how we do what we do here at Minnie's Food Pantry. And when he came back, he was the best volunteer that I ever had. He was in the military. And so people began to understand what this place and space called Minnie's was about. And that's all I wanted. I didn't set out for the Oprah Winfreys and all of them to be a part when I originally did it, until one day I had this dream and God said, Oprah's going to help you. And I looked at my mom, I said, Oprah Winfrey's going to help me feed the hungry. And I started telling it to my friends. And my friends was like, yeah, right. And I was like, yeah, she is. This is the media mogul, Oprah Winfrey, the Will Smiths of this world, the Emmett Smiths of this world, the Mark Cubans. Mark Cuban brought the entire Dallas Mavericks to my gala. I'm a huge Dallas Maverick fan. I'm the #1 Dallas Maverick fan. So Jerry Jones of the Cowboys. But every month, when I talk about faith and belief, every year at our gala, I would set a place setting for Oprah Winfrey. And my friends will walk by and go, guess she's not coming, huh? I guess she's not coming, huh? And I'd be like, oh my God, no, she's not coming. She's not coming. But I believed. The people who put my gala on, I met in my Entertainment Tonight days, I met Kevin Frazier, and I was like, Kevin, if you will host my event every year, one day Oprah Winfrey's going to be here. And every year Kevin would call me and I go, he goes, is Oprah coming? I go, no, she ain't coming this year. I was like, no, year one, year two, year three, year four, year five. And during those times, I was doing the work. And I want to tell you, in order to activate your impact, you've got to make the impact. I hope that makes sense to you. In order to activate your impact, it's you that has to make the impact. It's you that has to say whether or not one person decides, my head's cut off, one person decides they want to help me, I'm going to do this myself. And there were times where my mother would see me pull up at the house and I could barely walk. I could barely move. And my mother would wait on me and come in and she says, I'm going to pray for them. They will come. They will come. And as they began to come, people from all around the country began to say, we see you. She was talking about the Martha Stewarts. I was doing grants. And one of the things I want to say to you, I see my friend Breon just came on. He's a huge supporter of Minnie's Food Pantry. Thank you, Breon, for your support. Breon, when you start doing things right, the world will come to you and they will speak your name. And Breon has spoken my name at the Dallas Stars. I've been with the CEO of the Dallas Stars. He was with the Frisco Rough Riders, and he called me and said, we're going to shed the light on hunger. And it was so cool because the entire team had jerseys with patches on that said Minnie's Food Pantry. I didn't write this in my game plan. And at halftime, they give me this huge billboard and they pass the bucket around to raise money for Minnie's Food Pantry. And people will speak your name, but until they do, you speak it yourself. You say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. When you talk about activating your impact, you have to have that one thing that when you walk into a room, people know what that one thing is about. Am I making sense? Am I making sense? If I'm making sense in the chat, then I need you to tell me, yes, you're making sense. By the way, I'm Cheryl Action on Instagram, Cheryl Action. If I'm making sense to you and you want to tag me so I can read what you're saying later, I would love that too. Cheryl Action on Instagram. If you don't have that one thing that they know you about, then you're all over the place. They won't connect with the impact you're trying to make. Does that make sense? Because when I first started, I started as a nonprofit called the Giving Movement. Y'all, I was lighting candles. I was singing Kumbaya. I was feeding people. I was all over the place. And so people are like, what is she doing today? What is she doing today? But then when I realized God told me to feed the hungry, and I'm going to hone in on the feeding the hungry. Now, when I walk into a room, they go, here comes Cheryl. She's going to ask us to give us $5 so we can make a meal for somebody. Everybody knows that's going to be a part of my speech. Help me feed someone. And once you become excellent at that, then you can expand like what I'm currently doing right now. And so we began to feed people. And I just remember that when I say feeding, it's my Instagram is Cheryl, Cheryl. I'm responding to you, Carrie. Cheryl Action, Action. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Cheryl Action on Instagram. So if I say something, I'm going to go back in when I'm on the plane later on. I'm going to read what y'all are saying. So thank you for that. And so listen, activating your impact means sometimes you're going to have to go through pain to get there. Have I had a lot of pain? Absolutely. When Linda was talking about Rihanna coming, the Rihanna story is just a hilarious story because Rihanna, I didn't know Rihanna. I knew Shine Bright Like a Diamond. That's the only part of any song I knew with Rihanna. I didn't know how big she was, how larger than life she was. And I had, it was a snowstorm here in Texas, and I literally had spilled, I was taking some grease out of my kitchen because I don't usually cook, and I dropped the whole bacon grease out of the oven onto my foot. And my mother said, you have 3rd-degree burns. And this is like the 3rd day. And I'm like, it's swollen up. Yeah, I see your face, Erica. That's the face. Judy, I saw you too. That's how I was. And my mother came across the street. She goes, you're going to the doctor today. Well, I went to the doctor. I had 3rd-degree burns. The doctor said, we need to operate on you immediately. Unfortunately, we can't for 7 days. So you got to come back in 7 days. That's 7 days again. And if it hasn't healed up, we've got to pull pull skin from one area to put on your feet. And I started praying. I was like, Lord, please let it heal up. I go home and I still am working because we don't know how to rest. I put on the TV and I'm working and I hear, are you doing something great in your community? Rihanna, Steve Martin, and Jim Parsons has a new movie called Home, and we are looking to celebrate a hometown hero. Could that be you? If so, please let us know. And we want to roll out the red carpet in your community. Well, I have a red carpet that I roll out every single day at Minnie's because I believe that anybody that's going to walk in, remember I told you I did the red carpet at the Oscars. So what could life be like if someone who needed something as simple as their next meal could walk in with their head down and see that someone cared enough to put a red carpet out? And then they look up at me with tears coming down their face and go, is this for me? And I say, yeah, this red carpet is for you. And when I talk to the celebrities, which I will meet later, I say, have you walked the real red carpet? Because the Oscars is not the real red carpet. It's not. I said, the real red carpet is the one where you will use your life to make a difference. And so people, how have you gotten all of these celebrities? Because I challenge them to go outside of that Oscar look and come down and be a real humanitarian. And so I started typing. I was like, well, you know what? I roll out the red carpet. I'm just typing away. Now, y'all will laugh at this. I wish that they could give me the video. Actually, I think the video is on YouTube. If you type in Good Morning America, Rihanna, and Minnie's Food Pantry, you'll see, I think it's an 18-minute video. And it's also in my book. I'll tell you more about it later. But I'm typing away, typing away, typing away. Little did I know, they called me and said, hey, tell us more about what you do. And after I did that, it was done, right? I'm still in my boot, barely able to walk. And they said, Cheryl, you are one of the finalists. So we need you to be at Minnie's Food Pantry, 5 o'clock in the morning. We'll let you know. Well, I'm there and I'm inside my building and then the doors open up. Cheryl Jackson, Cheryl Action Jackson. I'm like, yeah. And then he's like, come on out. And when I open up the door, y'all, there's like a 60, no, it's more than 60. It's about a 200, the biggest screen that you can imagine. And it's Good Morning America live with Rihanna, Jim Parsons, and Steve Martin and Mike Stefanoffo, a little bit of Gus, whatever it is, right? They're all on this big screen. And it's my mommy there and all of the community with the band. And they have a red carpet rolled out for me. When you treat people with respect, what you give, ladies and gentlemen, is what you receive. And so here I have been rolling, and they said, you won our home contest. And so they said, we're bringing Rihanna to your town. We're bringing Jim Parsons from the Big Bang Theory to your town. And I'm like, oh my God. Y'all, when I tell you almost 200 media outlets showed up. Now and Rihanna comes in and my phone, now let me say this, once you hit that level, your phone's going to ring like nobody's business. I couldn't sleep. I wake up 50, 75 text messages. I want to come. I want to come. I'm like, it's just shine bright like a diamond woman, right? But now I know who Rihanna really, really is. And she's now my friend. But at that time, I didn't know, her impact and Jim Parsons' impact. And so they come in and Rihanna donates not just that day, and Good Morning America donate to Minnie's Food Pantry, not just that day, but when she came and served, she adopted Minnie's Food Pantry for almost a year, where she wrote a check and said, please, usually it's only Barbados is who I donate to, my home country. But because of what you do and how you do it, I want to celebrate you and support you. My challenge to you is when you say, I'm going to activate my impact, I can't remember who I heard say this, but they said, look around for that thing you want to do. And then they said, see how they're doing it and do it completely different. Because when you do things differently, people want to be with you. And most of the time when people think of a food pantry, they don't think of a food pantry. Thank you for buying the Kindle version, Erica. I see you. She's already buying my book and I haven't even said anything. My girl. Yeah, she took action, activated, right? But most of the time, people don't think of it when they see you doing things. But I will tell you that changed me. It changed me because Rihanna not only supported me, but she flew me to LA to spend the day with her. And then she asked me to adopt her. Why? And I said, what is it? Because it's something about you. Let me say this to y'all. There is something about every single one of us that if we shined every single day, people will say the exact same thing. When I met Linda, I was like, it's something about you, your leadership, your love for women. It's not fake. It is not fake. And if we as leaders can really decide, I want to help somebody else. I spoke at the Zig Ziglar conference, not the conference, but at his office quite frequently. And he said to me, he said, you have to do a book because the world needs what you have. You need to be motivated. And the problem sometimes with the reasons why we are not connecting is because we are smiling today or at 8 o'clock, and then at noon, we have a whole different personality. Now, I will tell you all, I have been through menopause. And I am still going through menopause. So I understand what that can do to us. Breon, you don't know nothing about this. So anyways, but when you go through it, it's challenging. It is challenging to stay the same. I'm positive. But let me ask you this. What would happen if the person who's supposed to take you to your next level that you've been dreaming about met you in the middle of your worst menopausal moment? How are you treating them? Judy, I saw you. Oh, if facial expressions could say something. Oh my God. Judy, your facial expressions said it all. What would they feel if they saw you? And so we just have to be conscious of who are we at all times. And I tell my team, if I'm not exuding joy, because I tell people I bring the joy. I said, if I'm not exuding joy, I said, check me on it. So who in your circle can check you when you're not the person that you want people to see you to be so that they can help you activate your impact? Because if I meet you at the worst menopausal moment and you are in that, oh my God, I'm having a rough day, I'm not going to want to join you. Does that make sense, y'all? If it makes sense, tell somebody, say yes, hallelujah, something, right? Because I have seen some people that I'm like, what is wrong with you? And they're the smartest of people, but I'm like, I don't want to work with you because of the attitude that you have. And so I am always checking myself on attitude. And so when I started and Rihanna said, okay, I want to help you. And all of these people said, hey, I want to help you. It blew my mind. And people will always ask me, how do you get to celebrities? Cheryl, how? I mean, this book that I have, this book, The Power of Action, it took me 3 years to write this book because I'm talking to you about the great stories, but I'm also telling you that in the midst of your great stories, you're going to experience some tragedies, some tragedies and pain that you probably don't even know how you will respond to it. But if you haven't taken the time to get a Linda Fisk in your life, that if you go through something, you can be transparent with her and she can be transparent and confidential with you. If you don't have a Breon in your life that says, Breon, I got to feed 10,000 people and I'm $10,000 short and I have no voice right now because I'm going through so much, but these families, they are depending on me. If you really know you don't have that now, this is the clarion call for you to get it together. This is the clarion call to say that for me, I realize that I have more days behind me than I do ahead of me. So I told you my father died and he died at the age of 58 years old and I was a daddy's girl. And so now all I have is my mom and my mom who had told me, you don't have to do this, Cheryl. You don't have to do this, Cheryl. My mother was ministering one Sunday morning and she said, get me my purse, get me my purse. So we go get her purse. She said, dump out all the money that I have in my purse. And she said, give it to me. So we give it to her. And she began to go around the church. And she was just giving it to strangers, visitors in the church. She gets back to the front of the pulpit and she says, this is what we are all called to do. We are called to give on some level. One of my favorite quotes, if you love this, please write it down and tag me on Instagram if it hits you. One of my favorite quotes is my father's quote, and he says, you don't give to be seen, but you should be seen giving. It is because of me seeing my parents give And not necessarily, y'all, items. It wasn't always the money or the food, the best of the food we had. I saw them giving love. I saw them giving laughter. I saw my mother giving hugs to everybody she met, that people would come to Minnie's and just say, "Is Miss Minnie here? Because I just need a hug. It's not my day to get food, but I just need a hug from Miss Minnie's." My mother said that hope meant helping other people eat and having only positive emotions. Helping other people eat and having only positive emotions. And so my mother gave her last, her all, and she got back on the microphone and she said, "If I were to die today, I would want my tombstone or headstone to read, 'She loved God and she loved God's people.'" Well, that's cute. She loved God and she loved God's people. I always hung on to all of my mother's words, but that one impacted me for some reason. We were on our way to church Wednesday. I don't have the towel, but my mother, she said, "Cheryl, I got you some. I made you something." One of the towels, she said, "One of these towels is to wipe your face from when you're having those heat flashes and menopausal moments." And I laughed. And she said, "The other one is to wipe your tears for when you're crying, because I cry a lot, because I tell God not to let me forget where I came from so people can connect with it." And she handed me both of the towels. That was a Wednesday. Thursday, I went to my office and I was having a board meeting. So I took my phone because I always tell people, my son said something to me. He said, "Mom, one of my favorite quotes is, 'Many people communicate, but few connect.'" And so I made this habit now. When I go into meetings, I turn my phone over so I can't see it. When I turned my phone back over the other way, I'd missed 41 calls. So I called my sister, she didn't answer, and I called my nephew. And he said, "If you want to see your mother alive, you need to get home." Now, I had just talked to my mom 30, 45 minutes prior to that meeting because we walked every morning, telling her how much I loved her. She picked out the most beautiful flowers. They were orchids, 4 different colors. We had walked. And she said, "I want to take these." I said, "Mom, we're a mile and a half away from my house. You will not walk that far. I will bring you those orchids." "Okay, Cheryl, you promise?" I said, "I will go get them." Now here I am driving, trying to get to my mother's house. When I get there, ambulance is there, and he says to me, "Do you believe in prayer?" "Absolutely. My parents are pastors. What do you mean?" He said, "Then you need to pray." I look down at my mother coming out, unresponsive. They take her to the hospital. The CEO of the hospital comes down and he says, "Dr. Jackson, we know who we have here, and we will do everything we can to bring her to you, back to us. But let me show you her heart, the most beautiful heart I thought in the world." But on this particular day, everything was clogged in my mother's hearts. And he said, "I don't think that we will be able to do anything." They worked on her. And unfortunately, they couldn't bring her back. We run so much, ladies. We have so many things we have to do. One of the most important things we have to do is to make sure that we love hard, that we tell our family how much we love them, our friends, even our colleagues. My mother died that day. Miss Minnie, she's not here anymore. She would walk and say, "Cheryl, I need to know you got it." Oh, she would stop in the middle of those walks and just look at me. "I need to know you got it, daughter." And "Mama, I got it, I got it, I got it," I would say. Wasn't really sure what "I got it" meant. Um, I got it now. I got it that all of us are leaders. This book that I wrote, The Power of Action, they named me Cheryl Action Jackson because they say you jump into anything, you'll do anything. The truth of the matter is, whatever I decide I'm going to jump into, it's because I see a need. And whether qualified or unqualified, I will do my best to meet that need. And because I've done it so many times, thank you. It's okay to cry. Thank you. Because I've done it so many times, people will jump in with me. So when my mother says, Cheryl, I need to know you got it, I got that I am supposed to use my voice to impact others with my impact so they will impact others. I'm supposed to use my voice to tell you, Susan, and to tell you, Judy, how special you are. So that if nobody else says it to you, like my mother would say it to you, Sarah, the world needs you. And whatever action you take, whether big or small, it's big in somebody else's eyes. That kind word in this book, there's a chapter that I pray will really, really resonate with you. And it's how I use my life, what I say every day that I believe causes people to say, I want to be around you. I want to hear what you have to say about it. It's 3 phrases, and it's 2 words for each phrase. The first one is use me. I firmly believe in the Bible, God says that he searches for someone to use. He wants to show himself strong so that they can see a light. So before I walk out of my doors, I say it every day. You got to use somebody, right? That's what it says in your Bible. Will you use me? The second phrase I live by is the word thank you. 2 simple words that changes the game all day long. Thank you, Linda, for believing in me. Thank you, Diane, for coming on this. Your picture's so beautiful. And I see someone I haven't seen in a long time, Myra Hill. Thank you, Myra. So good to see your name. Thank you. At least 10 times a day, I'm going to say that word, thank you. I'm being very intentional about it it becomes a habit at least 10 times a day. And then well done. My father's gone. I know God said well done to Robert Charles Hawthorne because I saw him on earth do so many great things. My mother's gone. And I'm pretty dang sure she heard those words too. She walked this earth giving the best of the best that she had. She wasn't wealthy when it came to money, but the words that she would speak into people's lives made such a huge difference. I am who I am today because I watched them as a little girl on into my adulthood, changing the world on the level in which they lived. I would ask this question: if your children are watching you, if your family is watching you, what would they say? Could they say, well done? So my mother died of a heart attack. There was a moment I was driving and my heart, when I had downloaded an app because the doctor, I'm not one that goes to the doctor. I'm just running like we all are. But I downloaded an app because when I called my mother's doctor, he said, there's a history of heart failure in your family. You don't know what you have. And I said, oh, I didn't know that. My mother didn't share the pain she wasn't going through. She didn't share it until I got her journals. I have 37 journals from my mother. So if you don't journal, I'm gonna challenge you to start journaling now, because I read the pain that my mother went through, trying to raise us, trying to raise a church, trying to give back to the community. And I say, I'm living my mother's life all over, but at least I'm going to download this app. So I downloaded an app and was talking to my daughter. My heart rate went from 65 to 80 to 90 to 150 to 200. And by the time I got into the emergency room, I just showed them my phone and they said, you know what, we have to give you medicine or you're going to die. We have to reset your heart. And I said, no. Can you wait till my family gets here? And I'm calling my daughter. She goes, If I wait, you could die. Life is not promised to any of us. I told her, go ahead and give me the medicine. And from that came the Reset Conference that I started. It's October 3rd and 4th, where I'm challenging people to come together, all these leaders, to reset their lives, their relationships, their businesses. All I can tell you is that every single day, I am living my life and I am challenging others to activate their impact in a way that even if you don't believe in God and what I'm saying, that you can just personally say, well done. For today, I will pat myself on the back and say, I treated my neighbor right. I treated my colleagues right. I did something kind for someone. Well done. The power of action in this book, a woman who didn't go to college, but can I read you something? In the front of this book, it's literally dedications. There's Bishop T.D. Jakes. He says, join us as Dr. Cheryl Jackson inspires us to move beyond contemplation to transformation by taking action on the mandates on our life. She is one of the most vivacious, dynamic, impactful people that I know. This book is a must read. If you've watched the movie Same Kind of Difference as Me with Ron Hall, beautiful movie. He says, if you've been waiting for the right time to change things, stop. Today is the right time to take action and read Cheryl Jackson's new book. It's crazy. Linda said, Cheryl leads by example with grit, grace, and an unwavering belief in the power of people. Her story is not only inspirational, it's instructional, reminding us that leadership is forged in both triumph and tragedy. It's a gift. Tony Robbins said it's a gift, one of the world's leading speakers in voice and motivation. And Stedman Graham wrote the foreword to my book. I'll close with this foreword. And the reason why is because I am not a writer. I'm a storyteller, and I couldn't find a writer. So it took me 3 years just to write this book. The pain of just my mother's chapter took me almost a year to write because I couldn't go through the pain. I had to get through it. But I will say this, now that I've gone through it, the healing has begun, and I really am a better person now that I've gotten it out. Stedman Graham says Dr. Jackson is not called Action Jackson for nothing. It means she executes, it means she delivers, and it means she gets it done. What she says, she will do. The power of action is more than just a book. It's a reflection of who Dr. Jackson has been her entire life. She's mastered the art of turning setbacks into stepping stones and transforming pains into gains. Stedman Graham. He said, during my visit to Minnie's Food Pantry, I was deeply impressed by the precision and excellence with which she runs her operations, from the systemic, fine-tuned delivery of millions of meals to the passionate team and thousands of volunteers. We have over 40,000 volunteers, y'all, behind her. It's clear her leadership is both intentional and impactful. Dr. Jackson's work is more than charity. It's a ministry of hope, encouragement, and unwavering service to others. He closes as saying, as a leader, Dr. Jackson believes that leadership without action is just words, and the power of action is her bold call to move beyond dreaming and start doing. In fact, Cheryl Action Jackson reminds me of a poem called Dreams by D.H. Lawrence, because she doesn't just dream, she brings dreams to life. And here's the poem. Dreams. All people dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind wake up in the morning to find it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous people, for they dream their dreams with open eyes and they make them come true. This poem captures the essence of who Cheryl Jackson is: authentic, action-driven, and deeply committed to purpose. Stedman Graham, best-selling author, educator, and entrepreneur. When I started writing this book, I had no idea that a Stedman Graham would write a foreword, no idea that a Tony Robbins would say anything about my book, especially give me praise. But when you start living and making impact, those who you have desired to work with, those of you who have desired to partner and to see you, they will see you. In this book, What you will love about it is I did something different because I didn't have a blueprint. I had a God print. When you open up every chapter, team, can y'all see this? Every chapter has a QR code. Isn't that different? And in this QR code, it is the story behind every chapter. And so when I talk about the lady who called me dying of cancer, stage 4, who said, someone called and said, can you help her? The QR code for that chapter is actually me going into her house. You will see her crying and being so grateful that I gave her kids the Christmas of their life. But what I didn't know is that her daughter, who I gave those presents to, would die before she did. That story is the most impactful story about time that's not promised to us of my life. And she said to me, she said, when I get to heaven, I'm going to go find Miss Minnie and tell her what an angel you are on earth. She said, I only have 24 hours left to live, but I wanted you to be my last call. If someone was going to call you and it would be their last call of the day, what good deed would they say you did? What kind word would they say you said? What hug would they say you gave? And the thing about it is, I am not saying this, if you haven't done it, to criticize anyone. My task on this earth is create a call and a power to action. That's all I want to do. If you go and you purchase my book, all I ask is that you leave me a review. I ask that if you buy the book or when you buy the book, that you watch every video after you read the chapter so it comes to life. I guarded the gravesite of the 8 people who died from the mass killing in Allen, Texas in 2023. That video is one of the most powerful videos. I didn't have a degree. I had a decree from God that says, go and take care of these people. And for 8 days, I allowed people to cry on my shoulders and ask me why. In the midst of my pain, it was the anniversary death of my mother. But instead of me going to her gravesite, my mother said, stay near the cross, and they were erecting crosses. So I went to that gravesite. You will see all of those real stories from a woman who has nothing but a whisper and a heart to take action to help other people. But from that, you get this book out of it. From having a heart, you get a Tony Robbins that will endorse you. From having a heart, you'll get a Bishop T.D. Jakes and a St. Marshall. You get a Breon Dennis, a Myra Hill, and all of you, hopefully, that will say, I'll purchase your book, I'll give you a review, and even share it. I made the ebook 99 cents, 99 cents. And someone said, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? You know why? Because I have this crazy dream that I'm dreaming while I'm awake, that this book will help me feed the hungry. It's called Read and Feed. So every ebook that someone purchases, 100% of the profits is going to go to Minnie's Food Pantry. I won't take a dime. It's Read and Feed. And every book you purchase will also go to help and feed the hungry. And all I ask is if you like it, then pay it forward. Ask someone else to buy the book. And by the time we pay it forward, this world will understand what a few good people with a positive heart can do. I want to say thank you again for joining me in the middle of your day, And I hope that I've injected some type of life and love and action into your life. And with that, I'll turn it over to my good friend, Linda, and say to you, Linda, thank you so much for believing in me and for letting me be on your platform.